The snow came down, like heaven had torn open its belly and forgotten how to stop. It was Christmas Eve, and Cole Harrington stood at the edge of his porch with a cup of cold coffee he'd stopped drinking an hour ago. The wind screamed across the Montana plains, whipping snow so thick he couldn't see past the barn 20 yards away. Everything was white. Everything was cold. Everything was dead quiet except for that howling wind that sounded like wolves crying for something they'd lost. Cole hadn't celebrated Christmas in 3 years, not since Martha died, not since he buried her under the cottonwood tree behind the house where she used to hang laundry and hum songs she made up about wildflowers. The ranch felt too big now, too empty, like a coat that didn't fit right anymore. He kept the cattle fed, fixed the fences when they broke, and tried not to think about how lonely a man could feel when the only voice he heard was his own. He was about to go inside when he saw something move in the snow. At first, he thought it was an animal, a deer maybe, or an elk that wandered too close. But then the shape took form, and his heart kicked hard against his ribs. It was a person, a woman. She was walking through the storm like she was dragging herself through water, each step slower than the last. Her dark hair whipped wild around her face, and she wore nothing but a torn wool blanket wrapped around her shoulders. No coat, no gloves, no horse. Cole set down his cup so fast it clattered against the wood. He jumped off the porch and ran toward her, boots crunching through snow that came up to his knees. The cold hit him like a slap, burning his lungs with every breath. "Hey!" he shouted, but the wind stole his voice before it reached her. She stumbled, her knees buckled, and for a second, Cole thought she was going to fall and never get back up. But she caught herself, one hand pressed against the snow, the other clutching that blanket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. She looked up at him, and even through the storm, he could see her eyes, dark and sharp and filled with something that made his stomach twist. Not fear exactly. Something deeper. Something harder. She was Apache. He knew it from the way her hair fell straight and black, from the beaded leather band around her wrist that peeked out from under the blanket, from the way she held herself even when she was half frozen and barely standing. Out here, that meant danger, not because of who she was, but because of who might be following her. Cole reached her just as her legs gave out. He caught her before she hit the ground, and she was lighter than he expected, like the cold had hollowed her out from the inside. Her skin was ice against his hands. "I got you," he said, even though he wasn't sure she could hear him over the wind. "I got you." She didn't fight him. She didn't say anything. She just let him lift her, her head falling against his chest as he turned back toward the house. The storm seemed angrier now, like it didn't want him to make it. Snow stung his face and blurred his vision. But he kept moving, one foot in front of the other, counting his steps so he wouldn't lose his way. 15 steps, 20, 30. The porch appeared out of the white like a ghost. Cole kicked the door open and carried her inside, slamming it shut behind him with his boot. The warmth of the house hit him all at once, and he sucked in air that didn't burn. His hands were shaking. He wasn't sure if it was from the cold or from whatever this was, this woman showing up out of nowhere on the worst night of the year. He laid her down on the couch near the fireplace. Her eyes were closed now, her breathing shallow and uneven. Her lips had turned blue, and her fingers looked like wax. Cole grabbed every blanket he could find and piled them on top of her, then threw more wood on the fire until the flames roared hot and angry. "Come on," he muttered, kneeling beside her. "Don't you die on me. Not here. Not tonight. Her eyes opened. Just a crack. Just enough to look at him. I need shelter, she whispered. Her voice was rough, like gravel scraped across metal. Cole stared at her. That was it? That was all she was going to say? No explanation, no name, no reason why she was out there in the storm with nothing but a blanket and desperation. You got it, he said, because what else could he say? You're safe now. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew they might not be true, because people didn't show up like this unless they were running from something. And whatever she was running from might not stop at a snowstorm. It might not stop at anything. She closed her eyes again, and Cole sat back on his heels, staring at this stranger who'd just crashed into his life like a bullet through glass. Outside, the wind screamed louder. The snow kept falling. And somewhere out there in the dark, something else was coming. He could feel it in his bones. He felt it before he understood it. That weight in his chest. That pull under his ribs. That quiet, sharp knowing that the moment he carried her through that door, his life on this land would never be the same again. Cole sat in the rocking chair across from the couch and watched the woman sleep. The fire popped and spat sparks. Shadows jumped along the log walls like restless ghosts. Outside, the wind clawed at the house, testing every nail and board as if trying to tear the roof away. She lay very still under his blankets. Her dark hair fanned across the pillow, wet from melted snow. Her lashes made thin black lines on her cheeks. Steam rose from the wool as her body warmed, but her skin still looked wrong. Too pale around the lips, too tight across the bones. He told himself she was a stranger, just trouble blown in by the storm. But that was not the full truth, and he knew it. There were the old words, the ones spoken years back, in another season, on this same land. His mind pulled him there now, whether he liked it or not. It had been summer then, hot, dry, the sky wide and clear. Cole stood on the same ground where his porch now sat, long before the house was built, facing a circle of Apache elders and warriors. His father stood beside him, jaw set, hat off, out of respect. There had been a feud with settlers, men in town who said the river and the hills belonged to them because they could write their names on paper and wave it at a judge. The Apache laughed at that paper, but they did not laugh at bullets. Cole remembered the oldest man, his hair white braid down his back, saying in slow English, "This land is old, older than your words, older than our words, but we can keep it from burning." They made a treaty there. The Harrington Ranch would be a strip of safe ground between the town and the Apache camps. No raids would cross it. No white man posse would chase an Apache across it. Blood spilled here would be a broken promise. Cole's father shook hands on it and said, "Any one of your people seeking shelter from that kind of trouble can stand on my land and not be turned away." Cole had been young then. He thought it was just talk to keep peace. But he had never forgotten the feel of that old man's eyes on him, steady and knowing. Now, years later, the old man was probably in the ground. Cole's father was in the ground too. Only the land and the promise stayed. And now, an Apache woman lay on his couch on Christmas Eve, half frozen and hunted by something the wind carried but did not name. Cole's gut twisted. He did not invite company. He made sure people stayed away. The empty house was his punishment and his shield. But the treaty did not care about his grief. Shelter. That was what she asked for. That was what he owed. He told himself it was duty. Nothing more. The fire burned low. Cole rose, fed it another log, then finally dragged himself to the table where a bottle of whiskey waited. His hand hovered over it, then pulled back. He needed a clear head. There were too many moving pieces now. Her, the storm, the settlers who had always watched his land like wolves circling a fence. He checked the rifle by the door. Loaded. Ready. He checked the window. Snow climbing higher. No tracks visible now. Whatever trail she left out there was fast disappearing. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Whoever hunted her would not turn back because of a little snow. Not if they had already followed her this far. He turned as the couch creaked. Her eyes were open again. Dark. Focused. Not soft and weak, like someone barely alive. There was a sharpness there, like a knife edge. He stepped closer, but kept a small space between them. "You're awake," he said. She studied him without blinking, taking him in, the gray at his temples, the worn lines at the corners of his eyes, the way he stood solid but tired, like a man holding up a wall by himself. "How long?" she asked, voice rough but clearer than before. "Hour, maybe 2, he said. "Storm hasn't eased." She pushed herself up on one elbow. The blanket slipped, showing the edge of a leather tunic under the wool, marked with simple beadwork. Her muscles tensed as if ready to spring, even though her body shook with cold. "You gave me your fire," she said. Not a question, a fact. "Would you rather I'd left you in the snow?" he asked. Her mouth twitched, like she almost smiled, but didn't. "You do not want me here," she said softly. He stayed quiet for a second. There was no point in lying. "This is my land," he said. "I live alone for a reason. Trouble finds me easy enough without help." Her eyes flicked toward the window, to the white blur beyond the glass. "Trouble is already here," she said. "I brought it." He felt his shoulders tighten. There it was, the thing they had not spoken yet. "Who?" he asked. "Outlaws? Soldiers? Settlers?" She looked back at him, and he saw something heavy in her gaze. Not just fear, guilt, anger, shame. That whole mix he knew too well. "You have an old promise with my people," she said instead of answering. "Your father stood on this ground. He gave his word. Harrington, they called him." The name cut him. It sounded strange in her mouth. Old, almost sacred. He looked away for a moment. "He's dead," Cole said. "I'm all that's left." "Then you carry his promise," she said. "And I ask what you must give." She spoke like someone used to being refused and standing there anyway. He met her eyes again. "Shelter," he said. "You asked for shelter. You have it. For now." There was a beat, the air between them tight. "Until dawn," she said quickly, like she needed the limit. "At dawn, I go. Your life goes back to what it was." Her words should have made relief slip through him. But instead, they scraped raw. "Dawn," he echoed. "We'll see what the storm says about that." Her gaze softened just one fraction. "You think I am trouble," she said. "You showed up half dead on my land in a blizzard," he answered. "You didn't bring cookies." She did smile then, a quick, tired thing that vanished as soon as it touched her mouth. "You think I will bring men with guns to your door," she said. "I think anyone walking this territory alone in winter, with no horse and no food, has a story that ends in blood," he said. She looked back to the fire. The flames painted her face in gold and shadow. "You are not wrong," she murmured. He waited for more, but she closed her eyes, not sleeping, just retreating. Wall up. Secrets locked. He could have pushed, demanded answers, ordered her out right then and there, and let the treaty rot. But he could still hear that old man's voice in his head. "This land is old. Keep it from burning." And he could still see Martha's face the night she died, pale and sweating, hand clutching his shirt, as he tried to fight through a blizzard just like this one, and failed. He had not reached town in time. He had not found help. He had left her alone in the storm. He could not drag another person back out into white death, no matter how much he wanted his silence back. "You should rest," he said gruffly. "You're safe here tonight. I'll take the chair." Her eyes flicked open again, searching his face like she wanted to know if he believed his own words. "Safe," she repeated quietly, like it was a strange shape in her mouth. He turned away before that word could sink its hooks deeper into either of them. Morning came slow. A dull gray light, pressing weakly against the frost on the windows. The storm had not stopped, only softened, like a wild thing catching its breath before another charge. Cole woke stiff in the chair, neck aching, gun across his lap. For a heartbeat, he forgot she was there. Then he saw the rise and fall of the blankets on the couch and remembered everything at once. He checked the window. Snow up to the porch rail. No tracks, no movement. Just the wind carving fresh shapes. Behind him, the blankets rustled. He said nothing, watching his breath fog the glass. He needed a plan. She said she would leave at dawn. The thought of her going out there alone in that was... He cut the thought off. Footsteps padded softly across the floor. She stood a few paces behind him, wrapped in his quilt, hair braided now, face clearer. She moved like someone who had been close to death more than once and knew exactly how far her body could be pushed. "The storm did not keep its promise," she said. "Storms don't make promises," he answered. They stood there a moment, side by side, but not touching, looking out at the endless white. "You said you'd go at dawn," he said, forcing the words out. "That was your idea, not mine." She nodded once. "I keep my word," she said, "but I do not walk into a grave for pride." He let out a breath he had not known he held. "You can stay," he said, "until it lets up. After that, you move on. This house, it isn't built for more than one anymore." He heard how that sounded. Broken. Small. But it was the truth. She took that in without comment. No thank you. No relief. Just a silent agreement. The next hours stretched slow. The house felt even smaller with another heart beating inside it. She stayed close to the fire, sitting on the floor with her legs folded, eyes half closed, listening. He moved through the rooms, boots thudding on the floorboards, pretending she wasn't there. He chopped wood out back, each swing of the axe sharp and angry, as if he could cut the tension out of the air. His breath came in clouds. The cold bit into his fingers, even through his gloves. From the corner of his eye, through the window, he saw her move. She fed the fire without being asked, gathered his scattered tools by the hearth, and placed them in a neat line. When a draft slipped under the door, she stuffed an old sack tight against the crack with quick, sure hands, like she had been patching leaks her whole life. She didn't talk. She didn't wander. She didn't touch anything she did not need to. But she watched. Her eyes followed the way he shouldered the wood, the way he walked when his bad knee stiffened in the cold, the way he paused by the table where Martha's old sewing basket still sat, hand hovering, then moving away. The house was divided down the middle, not by walls, but by fear. His fear of letting anyone close again, her fear of bringing what hunted her to his door. Their silence filled every room like another storm, and yet small cracks formed. When he came in with his arms full of logs, she already had a clear space by the wood box. When he reached for the pot to make coffee, he found the beans already ground. When a board near the window squeaked under his weight, he noticed a wedge of folded cloth pressed beneath it, stopping the noise. Her doing. None of it felt big enough to name. but he noticed, and she knew he did. By the second day, the snow outside had turned the whole world into a white wall. The sky and the ground were the same flat color. It was like the house floated in nothing. Cole tried to keep his hands busy. He fixed broken harness straps, sharpened his knife, checked and rechecked the guns. Anything to stop thinking about the stranger moving quiet in his kitchen. She did more each day without asking. He stepped out to the barn to see to the horses, and found she had beaten him there, wrapped in his old coat now, boots too big on her feet, but tied tight. She moved through the stalls with calm patience, speaking to the animals in low words he did not know. The horses, usually nervous with anyone new, stood still, ears forward, like they were listening to some song he could not hear. "You don't have to do that," he said from the doorway. She glanced back over her shoulder. "They are trapped same as we are," she said. "They do not like the wind. They like hands." He watched the way her fingers slid along the mare's neck, firm, gentle, sure. The tension in the horses' bodies eased wherever she touched. "You work a ranch before?" he asked. "Work is work," she said. "A fence is a fence. A hungry horse is a hungry man with 4 legs." He snorted before he could stop himself. The sound surprised them both. Later, when he went to check the line of fence leading out toward the tree line, she followed without a word. The snow came up to her thighs in places, but she did not complain. She moved with a kind of stubborn grace, breath showing in steady bursts. Eyes always scanning the horizon. When they found a section of rail snapped under the weight of ice, she dropped to her knees and started digging without being told, fingers red and raw. He worked beside her, the two of them shoulder to shoulder, hands brushing now and then through the cold wood and snow. He tried not to look at her, but it was hard not to feel her there. The heat of her body in the frozen air, the way she grunted low when the rail fought them, the small huff of breath when it finally slid into place. Back at the house, he left an extra armful of firewood stacked by the hearth, instead of just enough for the night. He laid an extra blanket at the foot of the couch, then turned away fast, as if he could outrun the kindness before it fully formed. He felt her eyes on his back, but didn't turn. His chest felt tight, like something was trying to grow there that he did not have room for. He told himself it was just decent behavior. A man didn't let another human freeze if he could help it. That was all. But that wasn't all. At night, when the wind screamed and the house creaked, he lay awake in his narrow bed, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to the small sounds of her moving in the next room. A cough, the shift of blankets, the soft thud of her feet when she stoked the fire. He had grown used to the kind of quiet that hurt. Now there was a different silence, one that hummed, one that waited. She felt it too. She watched the way he kept his distance, always one step back, always choosing the far chair, the opposite side of the table. She saw the way his gaze sometimes caught on her hands as she braided her hair or mended a torn shirt with a needle she found in Martha's basket, then flicked away. Like looking too long was dangerous. She knew danger when she saw it. She had lived with men who grinned wide and spoke smooth while their eyes stayed dead. He was not like that. His danger was quieter. It lived in the way he carried his grief, heavy and stubborn, like a pack he refused to put down. It lived in the way his jaw worked when he watched the snow, as if he was always waiting for something bad to come out of it. She found herself wanting to know what broke him. That was dangerous too. The storm hit harder on the 4th night. Wind slammed into the house like fists. The sky flashed with far-off lightning, a strange sight in winter. turning the snow blue for a heartbeat at a time. They sat by the fire because there was nowhere else to go. He sat in the rocking chair, hands loose around a mug gone cold. She sat on the floor near the hearth, knees pulled up, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The light painted their faces in moving orange. The air between them felt thick, stretched tight with all the things they had not said. He kept his eyes on the flames. "You're not asking," she said suddenly. He looked at her, frowning slightly. "Asking what?" "Why I came," she said. "Why men might follow. Why I walked into your life on the coldest night I could find." "I figured if you wanted to talk, you would," he said. "Didn't seem like you needed my help staying quiet." She nodded slowly, considering that. "There is a man," she said. "Or there was. He led a gang. White man. Took Apache trails for himself. Took Apache water. Took anything he wanted." Cole's fingers tightened around the mug. "Outlaw," he said. "Yes," she answered. "He came near my people. Made threats, deals, lies. He wanted to use us. Use me. Said, 'You know all the paths. You can help us move without being seen. You help. We share.'" Her lips curled flat at the memory. "My brother said no. My elders said no. I said no. He did not like no." Lightning flashed again outside. Thunder rolled across the plains a second later. "One night," she went on, "he rode in drunk. His men with him. They tried to take what was not theirs. There was a fight. Shouts. Shots. When it was over, he lay in the dirt, throat cut." She looked directly at Cole now. Her eyes were dark, but steady. "They said I did it," she said. "His men. The ones who were still standing. They pointed at me and said, 'She killed him. She bewitched him. She turned on him.'" Cole felt a heat rise in his chest that had nothing to do with the fire. "Did you?" he asked quietly. "No," she said. "I wanted to. That is true, but I did not. My knife was clean. My hands were empty. I was too busy pulling my little cousins away from kicks and boots. When I looked up, his blood was already in the dirt." "So who did?" Cole asked. Her jaw clenched. "One of his own," she said. "His second man. His lieutenant. They were fighting over gold, over power, over who got to be king of stolen things. But when it was done, he needed someone to blame. Someone the law would not listen to. Someone the town already feared." "An Apache woman," Cole said. "An Apache witch," she corrected bitterly. "A curse, a killer, a danger." They spread that story fast, to the town, to the sheriff, to my people, to anyone who would listen. She looked into the fire again. "My elders told me to leave," she said softly. "They said, 'If you stay, you bring the sheriff to us. You bring guns. You bring war. If you go, maybe they will chase you and forget us.'" Cole swallowed. "So they sent you out alone, to run, to draw the fire." "They sent me to die somewhere that would not be on their doorstep," she said. No blame in her voice, only tired understanding. "I walked into the snow on purpose. I thought the storm would take me. Fast, clean. Better than a rope or a bullet for something I did not do." Her fingers tightened in the blanket. "But then I remembered a story," she said. "From when I was a girl. My grandfather told it. About a white man who stood on the hill and said, 'My land will not be a hunting ground for blood.' He said that man carried a spirit too heavy for one man to carry. A wolf spirit, restless, alone, strong enough to stand between two worlds and not be torn apart." She glanced up at him, eyes searching his face. "They said his name was Harrington," she finished. "So when the storm came and I thought I was done, my feet turned toward this ranch. I thought maybe I would die at the door of the man with the heavy spirit. Or maybe— She trailed off. Maybe what? He asked, voice low. Maybe he would keep the promise his father made, she said. Maybe he would hold one more piece of weight, just for a night. Shelter. That is all I asked. The fire cracked loud between them. Outside, the wind roared like a beast. Cole's heart hammered. That heavy spirit line sat in his chest like a stone. He thought of all the nights he had paced these floors alone, feeling something inside him pacing too. Something old and wild that had nowhere to go. A thing that woke on full moon nights and made his skin feel too tight, his teeth ache, his patience shred. He had never spoken of it. Not to Martha, not to anyone. He had buried it in work and silence, and an empty bed. He stared at this woman, this accused killer, this walking storm, and felt that buried thing stir, like it recognized her. He wanted to tell her to leave, to get out now, before whatever lived under his skin woke up and bared its teeth. Instead, he said, "You were not meant to die in that snow." She looked up sharply at the strange certainty in his voice. "You say that like you know," she said. He held her gaze. "Because you didn't," he said simply. "You're here." Her throat worked. She nodded once, a small, shaky motion, as if the simple fact of her own survival still didn't sit right inside her. "I was not meant to live either," she whispered. "Men died that night, good and bad. I walked away. My brother did not. My uncle did not. That leader did not. And still the story says it was my knife, my fault, my curse. I do not forgive myself for that walk, for those breaths." Cole's chest ached. The words came out before he could stop them. "You think you're the only one who lived when someone else shouldn't have?" he asked. She looked up, eyes narrowed, reading the pain in his voice. She leaned forward just a little, as if drawn. "What did you survive, Harrington?" she asked. He looked back at the fire. Flames blurred. His hand shook once on the arm of the chair. "Martha," he said. The name was a crack in the dam. "My wife," he went on, "2 winters ago. Fever took her fast, too fast. I hitched the team in a storm not unlike this. Thought I could make it to town, to the doctor. I was wrong." He swallowed hard, jaw tight. "Wagon overturned," he said. "Snow up to the horses' bellies. Couldn't move, could barely see. She lay in the back, burning up, asking if we were there yet. I told her yes. I lied. She died with my hand in hers while I sat frozen in the dark, a half day from help I should have known we'd never reach." The room felt smaller, the fire hotter, his voice roughened. "I brought her out into the storm when I should have kept her here," he said. "I chose wrong. She's in the ground now. I'm not. I haven't forgiven myself for one breath since." Silence filled the space between them, but it was not empty. It hummed with shared sharp edges. "She trusted you," the woman said softly. "You trusted the road. The sky chose different. That is not a crime." "It feels like one," he said. "I walked away from blood I did not spill," she said. "You walked away from a grave you did not dig. Still, the weight feels the same." Their eyes met across the firelight. 2 people, 2 storms, 2 hearts that had been torn open and didn't know how to close. Something shifted then. It wasn't loud, it wasn't grand, but it was real. A tiny breaking of chains. A small new line of trust laid down between them like a plank over a deep river. Outside, the wind screamed on. Inside, 2 wounded souls sat under one roof, both finally speaking the truths that haunted their nights. The danger still waited in the snow. The men hunting her had not disappeared. The old promise still stood like a thin wall around the ranch. But now there was something else standing there too. A man with a spirit too heavy for one man, and a woman who refused to die the way the world had planned. They did not know it yet, not fully, not in words, but from that night on, whatever came for them would not face them one by one. It would face them together.